My name is Emma, and growing up, there was one rule in my family that nobody ever said out loud. Everything revolved around my older brother, Ryan. Ryan was the smart one. Ryan was the successful one. Ryan was the one my parents constantly bragged about. If Ryan got an A, we'd celebrate. If I got an A, my parents would ask why it wasn't an A+. I got used to it after a while. It wasn't that my parents hated me. They just seemed convinced that Ryan was destined for something special, and everyone else was supposed to support that story. When I was 28, I met Noah. He was kind, funny, and completely uninterested in playing family politics. After 2 years together, he proposed, and I said yes immediately. I was excited to tell my parents. Unfortunately, they were not excited for me. The first thing my mother asked wasn't whether I was happy. She asked, "Does Ryan know?" I thought it was a strange question. Then she explained. Ryan was 32, still single, and according to my parents, it would be embarrassing if his younger sister got married before him. I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. My father told me it would make Ryan look bad. I remember staring at both of them and saying, "My wedding isn't a competition." But they had already made up their minds. They asked me to delay the wedding. Not for a few weeks, not for a few months, until Ryan found someone. Considering Ryan wasn't even dating anyone, that could have taken years. I refused. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. A few days later, my mother called. She said if I went ahead with the wedding, they wouldn't attend. I waited for her to say she was kidding. She never did. And that's exactly what happened. On my wedding day, there was an empty row where my parents should have been sitting. My aunt came. My cousins came. Even some family friends came. But my parents stayed home. Ryan stayed home too. I'll be honest. It hurt. No matter how old you are, a part of you still wants your parents to show up for important moments. But Noah's family surrounded me with so much love that day that I decided not to let their absence ruin it. After the wedding, I stopped chasing my parents' approval. I stopped calling every week. I stopped trying to prove my worth. I simply lived my life. And honestly, it was peaceful. Over the next 3 years, Noah and I bought a house, built successful careers, and welcomed our first daughter. Meanwhile, Ryan's life wasn't exactly going according to the script my parents had imagined. He changed jobs multiple times. Relationships came and went. Nothing seemed to stick. Then one day, out of nowhere, my mother called. She sounded unusually nervous. My parents had retired, and they were struggling financially. Apparently, Ryan had convinced them to invest a large amount of money into a business idea that completely failed. Most of their savings were gone. They needed help. And suddenly, the daughter whose wedding wasn't important enough to attend became very important. My mother asked if Noah and I could loan them money. I won't lie. Part of me wanted to remind her exactly where she had been on my wedding day. Part of me wanted to say no, but I didn't. Instead, I told her something she clearly wasn't expecting. I said, "I'll help you because you're my parents, but let's be honest about something first." She was silent. So I continued. "I spent years believing I wasn't enough because Ryan always came first. You missed one of the biggest days of my life because you were worried about how it would make him look. That decision damaged our relationship, and pretending it didn't won't fix anything." For the first time in my life, my mother apologized. Not a half apology. A real one. A few weeks later, my father apologized too. And the biggest surprise? Ryan never did. In fact, when my parents finally stopped treating him like the center of the universe, he got angry and distanced himself from them. The son they had protected for years disappeared when things became difficult. The daughter they ignored was the one who stayed. Life has a funny way of teaching lessons. My parents spent years trying to protect Ryan's image. In the end, the person whose image mattered most wasn't Ryan. It was their own. And they had to live with the consequences of the choices they made. Thankfully, people can change. Relationships can heal. But some moments can never be replaced. And missing your daughter's wedding is one of them. If this story moved you or made you think, subscribe, not just to this channel, but to the countless stories waiting to be told, globally told chapters, where every story matters.